They say sleep paralysis is just a trick of the mind. Your brain wakes up, but your body remains trapped, unable to move. Harmless, they call it. A phenomenon. But what I saw that night changed my life forever. It started like any other night. I crawled into bed, phone on silent, the soft hum of my fan filling the room. Sleep came easily, but sometime in the night, I woke up abruptly. My eyes snapped open, and I immediately knew something was wrong. I couldn't move. I tried wiggling my fingers, then my toes. Nothing. It was as if my body had been buried under an invisible weight. Panic surged, but I reminded myself, it's just sleep paralysis. This will pass. But then I saw it. In the corner of my room, where the soft glow of the streetlight barely reached, something shifted. It was subtle at first, a ripple, like heat rising from the asphalt. I squinted, willing my mind to brush it off. It's just your imagination, I thought. The ripple grew darker, thicker, until it solidified into a tall, shadowy figure. No features, just a mass of inky blackness standing unnaturally still. My chest tightened. I tried to scream, but my lips refused to part. The thing in the corner tilted its head, as though it had just realized I was awake. And then it moved. It didn't walk. It flowed, like liquid smoke, gliding toward my bed. I could feel its presence pressing down on me, suffocating, like the air had been stolen from the room. It stopped on the edge of my bed, looming over me. I couldn't see its face, but I felt its gaze, cold, probing, like icy fingers digging into my mind. It leaned closer, and for the first time, I heard it. A low, guttural whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but the sound filled my head, growing louder and louder until it drowned out all my thoughts. My vision blurred, and I was certain I was going to die. And then, as quickly as it came, it vanished. The weight lifted, my body jerked, and I shot upright, gasping for air. My room was empty, the fan still humming, the streetlight casting its soft glow. I wanted to believe it was just a hallucination, a cruel trick of sleep paralysis. But when I turned on the light, something caught my eye. On the floor, right where the shadow had stood, was a single, wet footprint. I never slept in that room ever again. It was the middle of night when I woke up, unable to move. This wasn't new to me. I'd experienced sleep paralysis before. The crushing weight on my chest, the silent screams caught in my throat, the invisible bindings holding me down. It was all so familiar. But something was different this time. My room was bathed in a soft, unnatural glow. The moonlight filtering through the blinds didn't explain it. It was as if the light came from nowhere and everywhere at once. My eyes darted around the room, the only part of me I could control, and that's when I noticed the mirror. I always kept the old, full-length mirror turned toward the wall. I don't know why I never got rid of it. It belonged to my previous tenant of my apartment, and there was something off about it. But that night, it wasn't facing the wall anymore. It had been turned, tilted slightly so it pointed toward my bed. I couldn't remember doing that. As I stared, the surface of the mirror began to ripple, like a pond disturbed by a single drop of water. My reflection was there, but it didn't look right. The angle was wrong. My head was tilted too far to one side, and my eyes were too wide, staring back at me with an intensity that felt alive. Then it moved. My reflection raised its hand, but I hadn't moved. It placed its palm flat against the glass, as if testing its boundaries, and then smiled. The grin stretched impossibly wide, teeth too sharp, too white. I wanted to close my eyes, to look away, but I couldn't. The reflection leaned closer, pressing its face to the glass, until it seemed like it was pushing through. The surface of the mirror bulged outward, shimmering and warping. I felt a chill sweep through the room as its hand broke through, fingers curling around the frame. My mind screamed, but my body betrayed me. I couldn't move, couldn't cry out for help, couldn't do anything but watch as it began to crawl out of the mirror, dragging itself closer and closer to me. The weight on my chest grew unbearable, and just as its face emerged fully from the glass, its eyes black and bottomless, I bolted upright. The room was dark again. The mirror was back against the wall. My chest heaved as I gasped for air, drenched in sweat. I tried to convince myself it was just a dream, just another episode of sleep paralysis. But when I turned on the light, there was a smudge on the mirror, right in the center of the glass. A handprint. And it wasn't mine. I used to laugh when people told me about sleep paralysis stories. It sounded absurd. A waking dream with shadows and demons? I thought it was just the mind playing tricks. That was before the night I met the breather. I woke up suddenly, my body locked in place. My arms, my legs, nothing would move. My chest felt tight, as if something heavy pressed down on me. The room was dark except for the faint glow of my alarm clock. 3:12 a.m. Just relax. This is just sleep paralysis. It'll pass. But then I heard it. The sound of muffled breathing. It wasn't mine. No, this was slow and deliberate. Inhale. Exhale. A wet rattling sound that came from somewhere just beyond my bed. I tried to turn my head, but I was frozen. My eyes darted wildly, scanning the darkness. At first I saw nothing. Then, in the corner of the room, something shifted. A figure emerged from the shadows, stooped and unnatural. It was tall, its head brushing the low ceiling. Its limbs were too long, its back arched like a predator about to pounce. But it was the face, or lack of one, that paralyzed me further. There were no eyes, no nose, just a gaping mouth that opened and closed in rhythm with the sound of breathing. It moved slowly toward me, each step accompanied by a creak of the floorboards. The closer it got, the louder the breathing became, until I could feel it, hot and damp, on my face. I tried to scream, but my throat refused to work. It loomed over me, its breath now deafening, drowning out of my pounding heart. The thing bent lower, its featureless face inches from mine. Then it whispered. I didn't understand the words or what it was saying, but they echoed in my head, sharp and jagged, like glass scraping against my skull. My vision blurred, and my chest felt like it would cave in. Suddenly, I realized. Suddenly, I was released. I shot up in my bed, gasping for air, my hands clutching at my chest. The room was still, quiet. I told myself it wasn't real, that it was just another sleep paralysis hallucination. But as I swung my legs over the side of the bed, I froze. The floor was damp, as if something had been standing there, dripping, and the faint sound of breathing lingered just outside my bedroom door. I haven't been able to sleep properly since that night.